my creative friends, and welcome to another watercolor tutorial video. So for those of you who follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you might know that I have created a Christmas card collection with beautiful watercolor illustrations. And well, there's this example here, this really pretty card with a robin. Robins are my favorite birds. And it's a bit whimsical. I went for a whimsical collection, and it has this Christmas hat. It has got this whimsical shape, and I love to show you how I painted this so you can feel inspired or follow along while I'm painting it. Of course, the outline of this painting, this illustration, is going to be attached in a link in the description, so you can try and sketch it yourself, and then we can start with the painting process. So this card, of course, it's not the original painting. This is printed, and this is the illustration itself. So you see how awesome it is to create an illustration and then have it printed on a product. I really can't wait to get started, so let's grab our paint supplies and let's go. Here is a list of materials that you need to follow along the tutorial video. I also put a list of these materials in the description below. For this video, colored pencils aren't needed. So pause this video, grab your art supplies, and we can continue. So in this watercolor tutorial video, the main focus is doing the watercolor painting. But of course, I know that sketching can be difficult and I want to help you out here. So I made an outline of the illustration and you can download it. There's also a link in the description for that. And then there are several ways you can go about it. You can of course print it out and trace it, or you can use it as a reference image and sketch it yourself. Of course, it doesn't need to be perfect. And you can try out a few sketches on some printer paper or in your sketchbook. And then once you are ready for the final illustration version, then grab some watercolor paper and draw it on there with an HB pencil. Now, if you are interested in having a tutorial video of the actual drawing and sketching part of this illustration, please let me know, drop something in the comments, and then if there is enough interest, I can create a tutorial video about that as well. For now, I hope this helps you, and if you have any questions, please let me know. And then I guess you could pause the video here, put on some music, and do your sketching part, and when you are ready you can continue, and we are going to start with the painting. Yes, so I hope that you are ready, that you have got your sketch, your outline, and you can start to join me. I am using some masking tape to fixate my paper to my desk, and I have my outline here, but I still need to lift off the excess pencil line from the paper. So for that, I always use a kneading eraser and I gently roll over the paper. So I'm not erasing everything entirely. I just make sure that there still are some thin lines visible so I know where to paint, but I won't be able to see, or it's harder for me to see those pencil lines in the end result. And once we've done this, we can start with the actual painting. So I always use a spray bottle to wet my palette to activate the paint. And what I have done with my Christmas card collection with all the illustrations is that I first paint a background. So I am painting very loosely. For some of my illustrations, I've covered the entire painting, the entire illustration. For this one, I am gently, loosely following around some of the objects in the illustration. So I am trying not to paint too much over the robin and the tree, but I like to gently cover it as well because I don't want to get too harsh lines Normally I like to work with a white effect, but I'm not doing that here now. Now, one thing I want to recommend is that while the paint is still wet, you drop in different colors. For this I'm using a light turquoise blue and some violet, some purple to drop in to have some shading. Of course, this layer needs to dry before we can continue, and I am using my blow dryer for this. You can, of course, just let it dry by air. It just takes a little longer, well, a lot longer. The difference is when you use a blow dryer that the lines can dry up a little bit harsher. But that's okay for me, and now I can continue with the rest of the illustration. So again, I'm grabbing my round brush and I'm starting with some burnt umber to paint in my robin. Robins are my favorite birds and I really love painting them. So even this one is a bit whimsical, but I always have in my mind a bit the shape and especially the colors that I like the robins to be in. I guess it's the combination of the dark brown and the orange and the ochre that I really love very much. So I'm painting very loosely using the wet on wet technique. So with my ochre, I painted in the wing and then I use some burnt umber and loosely paint over some strokes to represent the feathers on the wing. Now I thought that the bottom of that brown of the body of the bird was a bit too dark, so I used my clean dry brush to wipe off some excess paint there. And now I'm using some yellow, some ochre to paint in the front of the bird and the paws. And I'm going to drop in some colors later on because I really love this bit to get orange. But I also love the effect of watercolor to blend in the colors on the paper, because then you let the watercolor do the blending itself and it always gives this really cool effect. Now when the paint has dried a bit, you can use some darker pigmented paint on your brush to add some more details. So you just saw me do that on the wings and the tail of the bird. And I'm also using that same burnt umber, like a dark brown, to paint in the tree. Now there is snow on the tree, so I'm gently painting around that, just following those lines, playing around a bit with the thickness of the paint, so making sure that there are some lighter and darker places, so you've got some shading. And I'm using the tip of my brush to paint those detailed lines of the branches. So when I need to go around some detailed areas, like for example around the toes of those paws, I am going to use the tip of the brush to do that very gentle. But you can also use a round brush to paint those larger areas. So I guess that's why like a medium-sized round brush is one of my favorite brushes to paint with. And then later on, once this brown has dried, we can add some color to that white, seemingly white snow. But I always, that's my trick, use a very light blue when I paint white space. So I guess when I paint white space, I paint the shading and not the color itself. So now it's time to start with a really pretty Santa hat with some very nice dark red color. Just painting in gently between those lines, and I really love to use a lot of pigment here. And I also love to use some red or even more a pink, dark pink color for those juicy berries all around. And I'm going to drop in some colors in here while the paint is still wet, probably some purple and red to mix and match a bit, have some variation, give it some contrast, some depth and some character. I also love to play around with the size of those berries as well. You can always add a few more than you've drawn in your sketch. Just play around and do what you feel like is pretty. Now, as you see, I have picked my light blue and I am painting in the shades of the snow. With some water on my brush, I gently brush out a bit of those harsher lines because they are very dark and I want to have them lighter. And with some water on my brush, I'm just brushing it out a bit, making the lines less harsh, so they're having this more gentle flow. I'm just playing around a bit with how dark I want those edges to be. But don't be afraid to use a lot of pigment. Just make sure that if you think it's too dark or too thick, you can use your brush with some clean water and brush it out. So what I did here, you see that the paint was still wet there where I've been painting those berries and they blended in with the background. So I'm trying to fix that a bit here. I used some water to clean it off. I dabbed it with my towel, and now I painted over it with some more berries. So yes, I make mistakes with my watercolor as well. It happens. It's just there are ways that you can fix it. Perhaps I need to devote an entire video tutorial for that. Now I am doing this the easy way. I'm grabbing my Posca and I'm writing the Christmas text, and you can do this as well. You can use a marker, but you can use paint as well, or not any other marker. Just using my acrylic marker is the easy way out for this. Now, as you can see, I have also added some of the shading around the white of the Santa hat of the bird. So using that same blue and also brushing it out with that water. And I'm using some indigo blue to paint the beak and the eye of the bird. And now I am using some dark orange to add some color to those legs and paws or claws of the bird. And of course, the dark orange in the face, gently around the places where I just painted the beak and the eye, because I don't want it to blend in together. If you feel like this is too delicate, then you can let those dry first. And then I'm using some stripes at the bottom there to represent the feathers. Now with some indigo blue as well, a little less pigmented than the beak and the eye, and I'm using some water to brush it out as well. And now I am putting in some burnt umber there too. I really want to make this bit a bit darker, but I really want everything to blend in together nicely. So I'm using those two colors and I'm using clean water to brush it a bit. Now I'm using that also to put some details on the wing and on the tail. Brushing it out a bit. I'm just playing around here to see what I like best and what level of detail I would like. Adding some burnt umber there as well. I'm really loving this color combination. Now with the tip of my brush and some burnt umber, I am drawing in some stripes, some feathers there. And I'm also brushing it out a bit, just keeping it playful. And now it's time to let this dry. For this I am using my blow dryer again. And then when it's dry, we can add some extra details. So what I love to do is use my white gouache and add that on top of the places where I want to have it as snow. So this is just some extra thing I love to do myself. We have already put some shading in there, but I just love to make it extra white. But I'm not going over the edges. I want to have that shading in there still. So I'm also using the white gouache to add a little detail on the eye of the robin, and I'm also using it to make some small stripes for a furry texture on the Santa hat. Now I love to create the effect of snow, and for this it might sound like counterintuitive, but I am painting in some blue or turquoise dots in different sizes all over the painting where I want snow to fall. And then after this has dried, we're going to use that white gouache again to cover it and make it look like these really nice snowflakes that are dropping down and have some shading effect. Again, using my blow dryer to let this dry quickly. And as I said, using the white gouache and a small brush to cover those blue dots and to make them like snowflakes. And when you're finished, then let it dry. You can remove the masked tape if you have used it, and of course don't forget to sign your illustration. So we are finished with painting this really beautiful and whimsical robin with a Christmas hat. And I really hope that you enjoyed the process, that the outline was helpful, and that you were able to follow along. Of course, I always love to see what you create, so please share it on your socials, and when you do, tag me at Sandra Art Studio and use the hashtag #CreateWithSandras. I love to see what you create, but I also love it when you do so. You inspire other people as well to watch my content and follow along in creating this beautiful art. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you like to see more of my videos. I try to post one of these videos every week. Now, one more thing. Of course, we painted this really beautiful illustration, and this illustration is part of my Christmas card collection. Now, I was thinking, if you are interested in receiving this beautiful Christmas card yourself, then please let me know. I think the easiest way to do this, if you look me up on Instagram at Sandra Art Studio and send me a DM over there. Of course, you can also drop something down in the comments, but I like to give away a few of these cards to people who are able to find me on my Instagram, follow me there and send me a DM so that I can see it. And I think if you do that much trouble, then you really deserve to receive this card. Of course, I don't know when you see this video. This is November 2024. If you see this video a couple of years from now, then I cannot be sure that this card is still available, but just try and you never know. But for now, please do, and I would love to send out a few. I really hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next one.